Hello and welcome to Tune Up here on the Corgi YouTube channel, where you can learn the tips and tricks you might need to tune up your Legion gameplay. I'm Chris Peterson, and today we're going to be talking about the way that the dice affect the game and the statistics and odds that go behind each dice. So let's jump right in. The first type of dice that we're going to be talking about are the defensive dice, and to start off we're going to be talking about the red defensive dice. Now below I have listed the 6 possible outcomes from rolling the red defense dice, and if you look below you'll see that there are 3 block results, 1 surge result, and 2 blank results. This means that if you were to roll 6 red defense dice, this would be the most average result that you would come up with on all these dice. Now with the ability to surge, you'll see that there are 4 blocks and 2 blanks, or a 2/3 chance to block incoming damage. Without that surge, you have a 50-50 chance to block all incoming damage on average. Big units will be rolling that red defense dice, such as Luke, such as Vader, and they have specific ways to even actually obtain that surge chance, such as spending a dodge token to get their deflect ability. The next type of defense dice that we're going to be talking about are the white defense dice. Now the white defense dice, if you look below, have 6 possible outcomes. 4 of those outcomes are blank. There's only 1 block and 1 surge on the white defense dice. That means if you do surge defensively, such as a rebel trooper unit, you're going to be taking on average 2 of every 3 damage coming through, because you have a 1 in 3 save chance. Now if you're like the Wookiee warriors up here, you have a 1 in 6 save chance, or the ATRT, you have a 1 in 6 save chance, which means on average you will be rolling these 6 white defense dice and you'll only be blocking 1 and taking 5 of every 6 damage coming your way. And as we conclude on our defensive dice, we now move into the attack dice. Now you will notice that the defensive dice may have had 6 sides to each dice. The attack dice is an 8-sided dice, and so there are 8 different results on each dice, and we're going to start with the red dice. Now if you look below, I have listed all 8 of the possible outcomes when rolling a red attack dice. Now you'll notice the red attack dice has 6 natural sides that hit, a surge side, and a blank side, which means for a unit that does not surge to hit, 3 out of every 4 red attack dice will hit, and then a unit that does surge to hit, 7 out of 8 every red attack dice will hit. Take Han Solo here, for example, who does surge to hit. When he rolls his 2 red attack dice with Pierce 2, odds are very strong that he's going to get those 2 hits, and it's actually more rare that he gets that 1 in 8 chance at a blank result than not. The next type of attack dice in this game are the black attack dice, and if you look below, the black attack dice have 4 natural hit results, a surge, and 3 blank results. This means that units that do not surge to hit, such as the rebel trooper unit, have a 50-50 chance to hit with all of their black dice, whereas those that do surge to hit, such as the rebel veterans, will have a 5/8 chance to hit with all of their black attack dice. The final type of attack dice are the white attack dice. Now if you look below, the white attack dice only have 2 natural chances to hit, 1 surge, and 5 blanks. This means that if you do not surge to hit, such as the Z6 Rebel Trooper unit, then you hit with 1 out of every 4 of your white dice being thrown on average. Where if you do surge to hit with, say, the Stormtrooper unit, then you'll be hitting with about 3 out of every 8 white dice that you are rolling. Now in this next segment, we're going to be talking about dice variance. And dice variance really just means the minimum and maximum values attributed to each dice pool. We've already gone over what the statistics are behind each dice, but dice variance is more about what could possibly happen and contributing that as a factor. A lot of players, if you look below, will see the Z6 unit and the DLT, and almost all players seem to favor the DLT Stormtrooper unit. For good reason. This DLT Stormtrooper unit performs very consistency with only 2 dice. That means its maximum hit value is 2 and its minimum hit value is 0. But with those 7/8 chances on each dice, 0 is very unlikely, and also it is contributing a bit more damage statistically over the Z6 unit at a 1.75 damage chance, where that Z6 unit with its quarter chance to hit with 6 attack dice is getting to 1.5 damage per every 6 dice rolled. Now, the way that these are actually balanced and may not seem it at the front is the Z6 has the potential to roll 6 damage. Now, we know that's very unlikely, and those of us who love to play Rebels don't see that come up too often. But whenever a Z6 is shooting, you never truly know what is going to happen. It seems to be either all blanks or all hits. It almost seems like there's not a lot in between. And so the dice variance for the Z6 is much greater than the dice variance for the DLT, where one is able to possibly maximize at 6 damage, while the other is able to maximize at 2. As we continue to explore the concept of variance a bit further, just know that variance is what contributes to the swinginess of games, to where, even though statistics might say something should happen, variance kind of explores what might possibly happen from a minimum to a maximum value. Take the battle kind of listed below. If these units were to fire upon one another, the Rebel Trooper units are getting 4 black and 6 white dice, meaning they're going to hit anywhere between 0 to 10 times, and the Stormtroopers, rolling their 4 white and 2 red dice, are going to hit between 0 to 6 times. The Stormtroopers might hit more consistently, but the possibility for the Rebel Troopers are there. Now, as a player, it can be easy to fall into the mindset of trying to find what the best statistical odds are between your attacks and just going for whatever attacks give you the best chance to hit. But variance is about analyzing what might possibly happen and then just kind of expecting, if your opponent was to roll very, very well, is your gameplay going to be enough to overcome those rolls, or are you simply just relying upon making the best decisions with your dice and expecting that to propel you forward? And in this next segment, we're going to be discussing cover and just how important it is for gameplay. Now, if you look below, I have 3 units in 3 different places, and just kind of give a brief example over what types of cover could be applied to your units. From a shot coming from down here, this Rebel Veteran would have no cover. A shot coming from down here, this Rebel Trooper would have light cover. And a shot coming from down here, the Wookiee Warrior should have heavy cover. Now, I know there will be things that apply to this, such as sharpshooter, such as suppression tokens, such as visibility and measuring from center of base to center of base. There are all kinds of things that go into an attack, but this is just in general. And so as you see that units take cover, no cover does not affect an attack pool in any way. Light cover is able to take away one of the attacker's non-critical hit results, and heavy cover is able to take away 2 of the attacker's non-critical heavy results. And as you look at these different scenarios, units actually benefit from cover differently. Now, if you take these units, such as the Rebel Veterans or the Rebel Troopers, they only have a 1 in 3 save chance, meaning that their defensive dice rolls are poor, and so cover is far more important to them than it would be for a Stormtrooper or even a Death Trooper unit. Now, we want to put all of our units in cover whenever we can, but some of them rely upon blocked hit results so much more than other units. Whereas, take for example this Wookiee Warrior unit. If he was being shot with 3 attack dice and he was not behind heavy cover, he's probably taking 3 wounds, anywhere between 2 to 3, half the time 2, half the time 3. But put him into this heavy cover and then he's just taking 1 wound. Now apply the same scenario to Stormtroopers, where they're going to be taking 1 to 2 wounds on average based upon their defense dice, and then in heavy cover they only have a half chance at taking 1 damage. So you can see actually how that kind of narrowed the gap for the Wookiee was so much more than it did for the Stormtrooper, meaning characters with poor defenses rely upon being in places where they're obtaining that cover so much more importantly than the units with defense. Now, for this last segment, we're going to be discussing an aspect of cover that I like to call the rule of 2. Now, the rule of 2 is just the assumption that your opponent is a good player, and that whenever you're allowed to shoot a unit, allowed per se, that unit is going to have heavy cover. Now, there could be some other exceptions. Your opponent could be trying to get their unit to a certain area and must briefly be out of cover to get there. Maybe the map just doesn't provide it, or maybe the opponent just simply made an error. but we want to assume that our opponents are all very strong, and so we should assume the rule of 2. Now, the rule of 2 is the assumption that all shots will be heavy cover, and that contributes to when you put units in your list, kind of try to figure out kind of how useful each unit is going to be in terms of their damage output. Now, obviously, melee units can ignore the rule of 2, and units with sharpshooter and such, but it's just a general assumption. So take just kind of rebel trooper units or stormtrooper units without any sort of upgrades. Now, the rebel trooper units are rolling 4 black dice without surges, which means their average expected result is 2 hits. Now, if those 2 hits are going to be blocked by heavy cover, really, on an average, you might actually be getting 1 crit result every 2 shots, which means that of 2 rebel trooper units firing upon 2 other units in heavy cover, you might get a crit, which might get a hit. So you can see how that's not a very effective way to deal damage to your opponent. Where adding that heavy unit is usually what it takes to kind of counteract that rule of 2. If you add a Z6 trooper, you're adding on average 1.5 hits to your attack, which really allows for you to either deal on average about 3 or 4 hits with a rebel trooper unit, which will kind of spill 1 or 2 hits over that rule of 2. And assuming your opponent is playing well, they'll have to roll a couple defense dice. And so the DLT unit basically itself for the stormtrooper unit takes care of that rule of 2, where it will probably roll 2 hit results, and then you'll be relying upon your stormtrooper shots. And so when you are building your list, when you put in a basic rebel trooper or stormtrooper unit, odds are you're probably putting it in there to grab objectives or maybe spread some suppression. You're probably not going to be getting a lot of hits with that unit that are going to be meaningful, assuming your opponent is playing very well. And so as you're putting your list together, always think about the rule of 2 and how your shots and attacks will influence that rule of 2 and what you might be left over when that roll is made. Well, that about does it for our first tune-up video, guys. Going over the dice odds, we started with going over what each dice might possibly come out to be statistically. We went over what variance is and how that applies to gameplay. We discussed cover, and then we discussed the rule of 2. Now, a lot of you guys have been playing for a long time think that a lot of this might be kind of basic stuff or elementary, and to some degree you're not wrong, but in future videos we're going to be discussing kind of further deep aspects of the game and how we might improve upon those aspects. And so for our next video, we're going to be discussing the attrition of war and the way that damage is going to be played out and affect each unit, and to try to maximize our results by kind of taking attrition into effect. So thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day.